Jack Nelson looked out the viewport as the human diplomatic ship entered orbit around the alien planet. The Calixi homeworld shimmered below, its surface covered in vast purple oceans and landmasses of deep green. After 200 years of searching the stars, humanity had finally made contact with intelligent alien life. "Remember the rules," Ambassador Lisa Kelly said, walking up beside him. "The Calixi are very particular about personal space. No touching, no prolonged eye contact." Jack nodded, but his mind was racing with excitement. At 32, he was the youngest member of Earth's first diplomatic team. He had studied xenobiology for years, but nothing compared to seeing real aliens. The shuttle ride down to the surface was quiet. 6 human diplomats sat strapped in their seats, each lost in thought about what waited below. When they landed on the massive landing pad, Jack's heart beat fast in his chest. "Follow my lead," Ambassador Kelly said as the door opened. The air outside was warm and smelled like cinnamon. A line of tall insect-like creatures waited for them. The Calixis stood on 2 legs, with 4 arms folded across their chests. Their bodies were covered in a hard shell that reflected light in rainbow patterns. Their heads featured large compound eyes and small moving mouthparts. The tallest Calixi stepped forward. "Welcome to Calixia. I am First Minister Stivak. We are pleased to welcome humans to our world." The words came through the translator devices the humans wore on their collars. Ambassador Kelly bowed slightly. "Thank you for your hospitality. We come in peace and friendship." The formal greetings continued as they walked into a large building with high ceilings. Jack tried not to stare at the aliens, but it was hard. Their movements were both insect-like and graceful. During the welcome ceremony, Jack noticed a smaller Calixi watching him from the side of the room. This one had more delicate features and wings that caught the light. When their eyes met, the Calixi quickly looked away. Later, as the humans were shown to their quarters, Jack saw the same winged Calixi in the hallway. "Hello," Jack said, stopping. "I'm Jack Nelson from Earth." The Calixi seemed surprised to be addressed directly. "I am Cathera, royal attendant to Minister Stivak." Her voice through the translator sounded musical. "It's nice to meet you, Cathera. This is my first time on another world." Cathera's wings fluttered slightly. "This is my first time meeting a human. Your species is very different." "Different good or different bad?" Jack asked with a smile. "Just different." Cathera tilted her head. "You have no wings or extra limbs. How do you manage?" Jack laughed. "We make do with what we have." This simple exchange marked the beginning of what would become daily conversations. Over the next few weeks, while the senior diplomats discussed trade and technology, Jack and Cathera talked about their worlds. Jack learned that Cathera was young for a Calixi, only 60 years old in a species that lived 300 years. She was curious about Earth and human customs. Jack showed her pictures of oceans, mountains, and cities on his tablet. "Your world has so much water," Cathera said, "and so many different kinds of life. Would you like to visit someday?" Jack asked. Cathera's wings fluttered. A sign Jack had learned meant excitement. "I would like that very much." What Jack didn't know was that their friendship was causing concern among the Calixi High Council. In their culture, different species kept strict distance from each other. The idea of close relationships between species was taboo. The human Jack Nelson spends too much time with Cathera, Minister Stivak told Ambassador Kelly one day. "This is not our way." Lisa Kelly frowned. "Jack is young and curious. I'll speak to him." But when she told Jack to keep his distance from Cathera, he was confused. "We're just talking, learning about each other's cultures. Isn't that why we're here?" "There are some boundaries we shouldn't cross," Kelly warned. "The Calixi have different social rules." Jack nodded, but in his heart, he knew his connection with Cathera was special. And neither human nor Calixi rules would keep them apart. 6 months after humans first met the Calixi, Earth received an invitation to join the Galactic Concord. This alliance of 17 spacefaring species governed trade and kept peace across this part of the galaxy. The news spread quickly across Earth, and people celebrated in the streets. Commander Susan Wright stood on the bridge of the Starship Eagle as it approached the massive space station that served as the Concorde's headquarters. At 45, Susan had spent most of her life in the Navy, but nothing had prepared her for this mission. "Concorde Station has granted us docking permission, Commander," said the pilot. Susan nodded, her gray eyes fixed on the gleaming structure ahead. "Take us in slowly. Let's make a good first impression." The human delegation consisted of 20 people, including diplomats, scientists, and military personnel. As they walked through the docking bay, they saw aliens of all shapes and sizes. Some looked like walking plants, others like giant squid floating in water tanks. The humans tried not to stare, but it was hard not to. Alan Murphy, the ship's engineer, whispered to Susan, "I never imagined there would be so many different kinds of life out here." "Remember your training," Susan said quietly. "We're guests here." The Concorde representatives greeted them formally. The Vexori, a race of tall beings with crystal-like skin that reflected light in sharp angles, seemed to be the leaders. Their spokeswoman, Premier Valtor, had a voice that sounded like glass wind chimes. "Humans of Earth, we welcome you to the Galactic Concorde," she said. "We have observed your species for many years and believe you may contribute valuable perspectives to our alliance." Over the next few days, the humans attended meetings and learned about Concorde laws and customs. They discovered something unexpected. Most alien species kept strictly to themselves. Interspecies friendships were rare, and relationships even rarer. Alan Murphy didn't understand this separation. One evening in the station's dining area, he sat next to a feline alien called Shirelle. She had soft golden fur, pointed ears, and eyes that reminded Alan of a cat, except they were deep purple. "Your species is called Mirax, right?" Alan asked, trying to be friendly. Shirelle looked surprised that he had spoken to her. "Yes. And you are human." "I'm Alan Murphy. I'm an engineer on our ship." He smiled. Shirelle studied him for a moment. "I am a junior diplomat for my world." Her voice had a slight purring quality. They talked about their work, their homes, and their interests. Alan found Shirelle's stories about her desert planet fascinating, and she seemed curious about Earth's oceans. They began meeting regularly, sharing meals, and walking together through the station's garden areas. Other aliens noticed and whispered among themselves. Meanwhile, the human xenobiologist Diane Powell made an important discovery. In her lab on the Eagle, she analyzed DNA samples from various species. "Commander Wright, I need to show you something," Diane said one day, her voice excited. Susan looked at the complex charts on Diane's screen. "What am I looking at, Doctor?" "Human DNA has unique properties," Diane explained. "We can adapt on a genetic level in ways other species can't. That's why we survived on Earth with its changing climate and diverse environments." "What does this mean for us here?" Susan asked. "It means humans could potentially," Diane hesitated, "well, be compatible with other species in ways that other aliens aren't with each other." Susan frowned. "You mean?" "Yes. Biologically, humans might be able to mate with some alien species, not produce offspring necessarily, but form physical bonds that other species can't." The implications of this discovery worried Susan. She had noticed Alan spending time with the Mirax diplomat. Rumors were spreading about Jack Nelson and his Calixi friend back on Calixia too. Her worries proved valid when Premier Valtor requested a private meeting the next day. "Commander Wright, we are concerned about your species' behavior," the Vexori leader said. "Your people are breaking important social boundaries." "What boundaries exactly?" Susan asked carefully. "Your engineer Murphy is pursuing a relationship with a Mirax diplomat. This is not acceptable in the Concorde." Susan was surprised they knew about Alan and Shirelle. "They're just friends." The Galactic Concorde issues a formal warning. Valtor interrupted. her crystal skin flashing cold blue. Humans must respect the natural order. Species remain with their own kind. This is how stability is maintained. Susan nodded politely, but inside she wondered why these advanced aliens feared connection so much. Something wasn't right, and she intended to find out what it was. 3 weeks after the warning, the Galactic Concord called an emergency meeting. The large council chamber was filled with representatives from all 17 member species. The atmosphere was tense as Premier Valtor of the Vexery stood to speak. Fellow members of the Concord, we face an unprecedented threat to our way of life, she said, her crystal skin flashing with red and orange lights. The humans continue to ignore our customs regarding species separation. Images appeared on the large screens around the room. They showed Jack Nelson walking with Cathera in a garden on Calixia. Another showed Alan Murphy and Sherelle holding hands on the station. We must act now to preserve the natural order, Valtor continued. I propose the Biological Separation Act, which will formally prohibit all interspecies relationships involving humans. The debate lasted for hours. The Vexery and their allies argued that human behavior threatened thousands of years of galactic stability. Other species seemed unsure. The Kintal, a race of blue aquatic beings who attended the meeting in water-filled suits, seemed most sympathetic to humans. Their leader, Elder Mori, spoke in a bubbling voice. Perhaps we should consider that our traditions of separation are not natural law but simply custom, the elder said. The humans bring new perspectives. But in the end, the vote passed. The Biological Separation Act became Concord law. Any human found in a relationship with an alien would face punishment, as would their alien partner. Commander Susan Wright was furious. She stood before the Earth representatives on the station. This law directly violates human rights, she said. We cannot accept it. Back on Earth, protests began. Humans had quickly embraced the idea of friendship and even romance with alien species. The government issued a formal complaint to the Concord, but could do little else without risking their new position in galactic politics. Frank Carter was a cook at the Earth Embassy on Calixia. He had fallen in love with Stala, a Calixi artist who created beautiful sculptures. When news of the new law reached them, they decided to go public with their relationship. We refuse to be separated, Frank said in a video broadcast that reached billions of viewers across Earth and beyond. Stala stood beside him, her wings spread wide in a Calixi gesture of pride. Our love harms no one, she added. Yet the Concord would punish us for it. The video went viral. Soon, other human-alien couples came forward. Some had been together in secret for months. A movement was born. Underground networks formed to help these couples. Safe houses were established on remote planets where Concord law held less power. Earth's government officially condemned the networks, but did little to stop them. Meanwhile, Commander Wright began her own investigation. The Vexery's strong reaction seemed extreme. There had to be more to the story. She found an ally in Dr. Powell, who continued her genetic research. One night, the doctor called Susan to her lab on the Eagle. I found something strange, Diane said, her voice low even though they were alone. Look at these Vexery genetic samples. Susan looked at the screen showing complex patterns of alien DNA. Their genetic structure is rigid, almost artificial, Diane explained. It's like they've been engineered to remain exactly as they are. No natural species evolves this way. What does it mean? Susan asked. I think they fear human genetic adaptability because it threatens their carefully designed order. Humans could potentially change the genetic future of the galaxy. Susan frowned. But why would that matter so much to them? Before Diane could answer, an alert sounded on Susan's communicator. It was from Earth Command. Commander Wright, we've received reports that the Concord is planning enforcement actions against known human-alien couples. They're starting with Frank Carter and Stala on Calixia. You need to warn them. Susan's face hardened with resolve. This has gone far enough. It's time we stand up for our right to love whoever we choose, no matter what species they are. As she left to send warning messages to Frank and Stala, she didn't notice the small drone hovering outside the lab window, a Vexori surveillance device that had recorded everything. Olivia Martinez checked the ship's sensors one more time. Her cargo ship, the Starlight, looked ordinary from the outside. But inside, it carried precious cargo. 5 human-alien couples escaping Concord enforcement. All clear, she said to her co-pilot, a quiet man named Ben. Tell our passengers we're ready for jump. 1 year had passed since the Biological Separation Act, and the underground network helping couples escape had grown. Olivia, once a Navy pilot, now ran what many call the Underground Railroad, named after an ancient Earth system that helped people escape slavery. The Starlight jumped into faster-than-light travel, headed for a small planet in unclaimed space. The humans had named it Haven. Over the past year, nearly 300 human-alien couples had settled there, building a community where they could live freely. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Paul Johnson worked in secret. His lab in the basement of San Francisco University didn't officially exist. Here he studied 50 volunteer couples, humans paired with various alien species. Your hormone levels are normal, Paul told Alan Murphy and Sherelle, who had joined his study after fleeing the Concord station. And the blood work shows interesting compatibility markers. Alan held Sherelle's furry hand. So there's nothing harmful about our relationship, nothing unnatural. Quite the opposite, Paul said, smiling. Your bodies have adapted to each other in fascinating ways. It's like your biochemistry is finding ways to communicate. Paul's research was controversial but important. If he could prove that human-alien relationships were natural and harmless, perhaps the Concord laws could be challenged. On Concord Station, Commander Wright received an urgent message from the Kintal Elder Mori. They'd met in a quiet corner of the station gardens. The Vexori fleet is mobilizing. Elder Mori said, his water suit bubbling with agitation. They have discovered Haven. Susan felt cold fear. How? We've been so careful. A traitor was captured and tortured for information. The Vexori plan to cleanse the colony. Their words, not mine. Susan clenched her fists. When? 5 days. I came to warn you because my people believe the Vexori are wrong. We have studied human genetics too. Your adaptability is a gift, not a threat. Susan nodded. Thank you, Elder. I need to warn Haven. Back on Haven, Frank Carter worked in the community garden. After escaping Calixia with Zitala, they had found peace on this small world. Their home was simple but comfortable, and they had made friends with other couples. Stala worked nearby, her wings catching the sunlight as she tended to plants from her homeworld that now grew on Haven soil. Look, she said, pointing to a purple flower. It's adapted to the soil here. It's changing. Frank smiled. Like us. He touched Stala's face gently. Over the past year, they had grown even closer. Sometimes he felt they understood each other without words. Their peaceful moment was interrupted by the colony's alarm. All residents gathered in the main hall, where Kelly Ward, a biologist who helped run the colony, stood looking worried. We've received an urgent message from Commander Wright, she announced. The Vexori have discovered our location. They're sending ships to attack us. We have 5 days to evacuate. The crowd erupted in voices of fear and anger. Frank held Stala close. Where can we go? Someone asked. Haven was supposed to be safe. Kelly raised her hands for quiet. Commander Wright is sending ships to help us. We need to pack only essentials. The evacuation begins tomorrow. As the meeting broke up, Frank and Stala walked home in silence. Finally, Stala spoke. I will not run forever, she said, her voice firm. Someday we must stand and fight for our right to be together. Frank nodded. And we will. But right now, we need to survive. That night, as they packed their few belongings, news spread through the colony. Olivia Martinez and the Starlight had been captured by Vexori patrol ships while trying to reach Haven with more refugees. The Underground Railroad had suffered its first major loss, and time was running out for everyone on Haven. Dr. Paul Johnson stared at the test results on his screen. He ran the analysis again to be sure. The same answer appeared. "This changes everything," he whispered. For months, he had studied the DNA of humans and various alien species. Now he had discovered something amazing. Human DNA contained tiny fragments that matched several alien species. It was as if humans had been mixed with other species long ago. He called Dr. Diane Powell, who was now working with him. "Look at this," he said when she arrived. "Human DNA has pieces that match Calixi, Mirax, and even Quintal genetic patterns." Diane leaned closer to the screen. "How is this possible?" "I think Earth was visited in prehistoric times. Maybe it was a melting pot where different species came together. That would explain why humans can adapt so easily to other species now." "The Vexori must know this," Diane said. "That's why they're so afraid of us." Paul nodded. "We need to get this information to Commander Wright." On Haven, the evacuation was going slowly. There weren't enough ships to take everyone at once. Kelly Ward worked day and night organizing people into groups, deciding who would leave first. One morning, she noticed Stala looking ill. Kelly was a biologist, so she offered to help. "It's nothing," Stala said. "Just stress from the evacuation." "Let me check anyway," Kelly insisted. After a brief examination, Kelly sat in shocked silence. "What's wrong?" Stala asked, worried. "Nothing's wrong," Kelly said slowly. "But I need to check something in the lab. Can you come with me?" In the colony's small lab, Kelly ran several tests. Finally, she turned to Stala with wide eyes. "You're pregnant," she said. "You're carrying Frank's child." Stala's wings fluttered in surprise. "But that's impossible. Our species are too different." "Apparently not," Kelly said. "This is the first human-alien child ever recorded. It's a miracle." The news spread quickly through the colony. Frank was shocked but happy. Some people saw the baby as a sign of hope. Others worried about what the Vexori would do if they found out. Commander Wright received Dr. Johnson's research at the same time she heard about Stala's pregnancy. She immediately called an emergency meeting with Earth's government. "Humans have alien DNA in our genetic makeup," she explained to the officials on the video call. "That's why we can adapt to other species. And now we have proof that humans can have children with at least one alien species." "This information is dangerous," said the Secretary of Defense. "If the Vexori find out about the baby, they'll stop at nothing to destroy Haven." "They already want to destroy Haven," Susan argued. "But this information could help us. It proves that interspecies relationships are natural for humans. It's part of our history. We need more time to consider this," said the President. "Meanwhile, continue the evacuation." But time was running out. The Vexori fleet was only 2 days away from Haven. On a Vexori ship, Olivia Martinez sat in a cell. She had been questioned for hours but refused to give any information about Haven or the other ships in the Underground Railroad. A guard approached her cell. "The Premier wants to see you." Olivia was taken to a large room where Premier Valtor waited. The Vexori leader's crystal skin glowed with cold blue light. "Human," Valtor said, "you don't understand what you're doing. Your species threatens the order we have maintained for thousands of years." "By falling in love?" Olivia asked. "How is that a threat?" "Your genetic adaptability is dangerous. You can blend with other species, change them. Soon, there will be mixed species everywhere. Chaos." Olivia suddenly understood. "You're afraid of change. You've kept species separate because you want to control how life evolves." Valtor's skin flashed angry red. "We guide evolution for the good of all. Humans would destroy that work." "Evolution isn't meant to be controlled," Olivia said. "Life finds a way to adapt and change. That's its beauty." Valtor turned away. "Take her back to her cell. When we find Haven, she will watch as we cleanse it." Olivia was dragged away, but now she knew the truth. The Vexori weren't protecting a natural order. They were enforcing an artificial one. Somehow, she had to escape and warn Commander Wright. The evacuation of Haven was only half complete when the first ships appeared on the long-range sensors. Commander Wright stood on the bridge of the Eagle, watching the screen with growing concern. "How many ships?" she asked. 20 Vexori warships," replied her tactical officer. "And more coming. We only have 7 ships to defend Haven." Susan took a deep breath. "Call Elder Mori. We need the Kintal now." After the discovery of Dr. Johnson's research, the Kintal had privately offered support to Earth. Their ships were smaller than Vexori vessels, but faster and better armed. "Commander," said a communications officer, "we're receiving a message from Jack Nelson on Calixia." Jack's face appeared on the screen. In the years since Susan had last seen him, he looked older, more serious. "Commander Wright, I heard about Haven," he said. "Thorough, and I want to help." "How?" Susan asked. "The Calixi government supports the Vexori." "Not all Calixi agree," Jack explained. "Cthera has connections to a resistance group. They'd been watching the Vexori for years, gathering evidence of their genetic manipulation programs." "Can they get that evidence to us?" Susan asked, suddenly hopeful. "Better," Jack smiled. "We have a plan to broadcast it to the entire Concord." On Earth, Ambassador Lisa Kelly prepared to address the Galactic Council in an emergency session. The chamber was filled with representatives from all 17 species. The Vexori delegation sat stone-faced as she approached the speaking platform. "Members of the Galactic Concord," Lisa began, "Earth brings new evidence that challenges the foundations of the Biological Separation Act." She presented Dr. Johnson's research, showing how human DNA contained fragments from many alien species. "Humanity itself is proof that interspecies connection is natural and beneficial," she argued. "Our adaptability comes from ancient mixing of species, making us living proof that diversity strengthens all life." The chamber erupted in noise as species debated among themselves. The Vexori Premier Valtor stood to speak, her crystal skin flashing angry red. "This human propaganda changes nothing," she declared. "Their genetic abnormality is precisely why they must be controlled. Even now, they harbor fugitives on an illegal colony." "A colony you plan to destroy," Lisa shot back. "Is that what the Concord stands for? Killing people because they love differently than you approve?" On Earth, millions watched the council session on screens in homes, offices, and public squares. Protests supporting interspecies relationships grew larger by the hour. People carried signs reading "Love has no species," and "Humans will love any alien they want." In space near Haven, the Kintal fleet arrived, just as the Vexori ships moved into attack position. 12 sleek blue vessels took formation alongside the human ships. "Elder Mori sends his regards," said the Kintal captain to Commander Wright. "We stand with humans against Vexori control." The Vexori commander demanded Haven's surrender. "Turn over all fugitives, and we will spare the human ships." Susan responded firmly, "We will protect these people with our lives. They have broken no natural law." As the fleets faced off, Jack Nelson put his plan into action. He and Cthera stood before a camera in a simple room on Calixia. A Calixi technician worked on equipment nearby. "We're broadcasting on all Concord channels in 30 seconds, the technician said. Jack took Cthera's hand. "Are you sure about this?" Cthera's wings spread wide in determination. "Yes. Our love is not wrong. The galaxy needs to see that." The broadcast began, reaching billions of viewers across thousands of worlds. Jack and Cthera announced their marriage, performed right there on camera according to both human and Calixi traditions. "We join our lives together," they said in unison, "as equals, as partners, as proof that love transcends biology." The simple ceremony had a powerful effect. On the Mirax homeworld, the government announced it would withdraw from the Vexori alliance. 3 other species quickly followed. In the standoff at Haven, several Vexori ships suddenly broke formation and moved away. Their captains had seen the broadcast and refused to attack. Premier Valtor screamed orders to fire, but more ships pulled back. The Vexori fleet was falling apart as individual captains chose love over control. Susan watched in amazement as the enemy fleet scattered. "Send a message to Earth," she told her communications officer. "Tell them the resistance is working. Tell them love is winning." 5 years passed since the standoff at Haven. The small colony had grown into a thriving city where dozens of species lived together in harmony. Gardens filled with plants from 20 different worlds bloomed across the settlement. Buildings showed a mix of architectural styles, creating a unique landscape unlike anywhere else in the galaxy. Frank Carter walked through the main square, carrying his daughter on his shoulders. Lila was 4 years old now, with her father's brown eyes and her mother's iridescent skin. Small wing buds were just starting to grow from her back. "Daddy, look." Lila pointed to a newly arrived ship landing at the spaceport. "More visitors," Frank said with a smile. Since the Separation Act had been repealed, Haven had become famous. People from across the galaxy came to see the place where the revolution began. Frank continued to their home, where Zitala waited in the garden. She looked up, and her wings fluttered with joy at the sight of her family. "Just in time," she said. "The celebration starts soon." Today was Unity Day, marking 5 years since the Galactic Concord had been reformed. After the Vexori fleet scattered at Haven, change came quickly. Premier Valtor had been removed from power. The truth about Vexori genetic manipulation programs had been revealed to all species. The Biological Separation Act had been struck down, replaced by the Diversity Charter that protected the right of all beings to choose their own relationships. At the center of Haven stood a large building with a dome of colored glass. Inside, Commander Susan Wright, now Ambassador Wright, prepared to address the gathered crowd. Leaders from every Concord species sat in the front row, including Elder Mori of the Kintal and the new Vexori representative, a younger crystal being named Saul M. "Welcome to Unity Day," Susan began as the room quieted. 5 years ago, we faced destruction because we dared to love across species lines. Today, we celebrate the freedom that love has brought to the galaxy. In the audience, Dr. Diane Powell and Dr. Paul Johnson sat with their research team. Their continued study of human genetic adaptability had led to medical breakthroughs that helped many species. Diane had even found ways to help species with fertility problems by using techniques learned from studying human alien children like Lila. "The path hasn't always been easy," Susan continued, "but together we've built something beautiful. Haven isn't just a place. It's a symbol of what's possible when we embrace diversity instead of fearing it." Jack Nelson and Cathera stood near the back of the room. They now worked as diplomats, traveling to worlds where interspecies relationships were still new and sometimes feared. Their simple wedding ceremony had become famous, inspiring millions across the galaxy. As Susan spoke, Olivia Martinez slipped quietly into the hall. After escaping Vexori imprisonment during the chaos of the fleet's collapse, she had continued running the Underground Railroad, now transformed into a cultural exchange program that helped couples from different species find communities where they would be welcomed. "Today, we honor those who risked everything for love," Susan said, her voice strong with emotion. "Frank and Ztala, whose daughter Lila represents our shared future. Jack and Cathera, whose courage inspired a galaxy. Olivia, whose determination saved hundreds of lives. And all those who refused to be separated by fear and prejudice." The crowd rose in applause. Among them stood Alan Murphy and Sherelle, now married and expecting their first child, thanks to advances in genetic medicine developed by Dr. Powell. Outside the hall, as the sun began to set, the celebration moved to the city square. Music from a dozen worlds filled the air. Food stalls offered dishes from every corner of the galaxy. Children of mixed species played together, their laughter a testament to the new world their parents had created. Frank held Ztala close as they watched Lila dance with other children. "Did you ever imagine this?" he asked softly. Tala's wings wrapped gently around him. Not until I met you. Humans taught us all that love finds a way, no matter what stands against it. As night fell on Haven, the stars seemed brighter than ever before. Somewhere among them, new couples were falling in love, new children were being born, and a galaxy was continuing to change. The message that had started on Earth now echoed across the universe. Humans would love any alien they wanted, and nothing could stop it.